if you've ever been in an online argument about the Ford F-Series, whether the best-selling lineup in America, well, I guess what? I got some details for you. I'm going to talk with Kathyrn, who is the founder of Work Truck Solutions. We're going to talk about fleet business, the things you don't talk about, the gray areas, and how big Ford is, how big is GM, how big is Ram in the marketplace in the commercial size, and is there danger signs in the future for commercial operations? Should we be concerned by the economy? Good stuff. Sit back, pop top, enjoy this one. Let's hop to the interview. All right, we're with Kathyrn. Kathyrn, thank you for joining me today. You are this founder and chief vision officer. Haha, I figured out what the C
Very good.
meant in Work Truck Solutions. So what exactly is Work Truck Solutions? You're not out there bolting stuff on vehicles every day, right?
That's correct, Tim. In fact, if I know you're excited about data, and that's really the kind of heart of why Work Truck Solutions was founded. I was publishing a magazine called Ford Pros, which is it comes out every 2 months, and it's to the salespeople at dealerships who sell commercial vehicles.
Okay.
And commercial vehicles, of course, are different. You know, they're customized and fit for purpose for things that are unique in the vocational world, and just getting certain kinds of work done. And so about 2 years into that, I realized that you couldn't go online and search for a dump truck or a flatbed or whatever. And I couldn't understand why. And it turns out that the VIN is given to the vehicle when the OEM produces it, like Ford or GM.
Sure.
And you know what a VIN is, right? So, but that's on the truck chassis itself and the van. But all the work that's done after, all the flatbed, dump truck, ambulance, fire truck, spray or security update for a van, right? None of that is added to that information ever, anywhere. In fact, no one keeps track of it. That's why you have trouble finding it.
Right.
And so I just said, well, where is that data most likely to be found? And really the only place is at the dealership just before it's sold to a customer. So we created a plug-in for the dealer's website that would be labeled commercial or work truck, that would allow a commercial customer to come and click on it and shop by what that vehicle became in exchange for the dealer giving us that data.
Okay.
And that data comes from the invoice that they used to do the upfit. That's what that term is, the technical term for putting all of these customizations on that truck or van.
Yeah,
and so we've been doing that for a little over 10 years now. Yeah. And over time, we've just gotten better and better and better at understanding the details of the configurations down to, dimensions, material types, what the most likely use is for that type of vehicle, all of that.
Interesting. I agree. It seems like commercial is like this gigantic gray area. And I actually asked, side story, I asked Mack Trucks once how much their truck was going to cost. And they're like, well, we don't really know. We can't tell you that. And I'm like, imagine walking in the grocery store and be like, how much is this gallon of milk? Well, I don't really know. But if you go to the registry, it'll tell you.
It's so funny that you said it that way, because literally it was I guess it was 2014 when I was trying to figure out if this was something that I wanted to do. The industry was about $130 billion industry. Mm-hmm. And I was teaching marketing, and I'm like, that's such a huge industry to not know what the product is that they're selling. And guess what? If you don't know what the product is, you don't know who the customers are.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, it's so bizarre. Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I go to all these press conferences, and I hear Ford owns work, and GM's got better sales and work truck, and then they're like, oh, we can't tell you those numbers, but we are doing it. And I'm like, that makes sense to me. So you released, and I reached out to you because you released a new 2023 Q2 commercial vehicle data report, and I'm a nerdy journalist, and I read this press release, and I was like, oh, data is going on here. You're talking about average on lot inventory for vehicles, time on lot. You threw EVs in there as hybrids as well. I mean, all these bullet points. And I'm like, I'm sure this is a big amount of data, and I don't want to dig into all this stuff, but I do want to ask you like an overall kind of question. We hear from economists all the time that, if commercial operations not buying new trucks, there's something wrong with the economy, right? I mean, we're all linked together. Trucks and the economy linked together. So
it really is. And
right.
look what we saw during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
What was really still operating, right? When everything else was shut down, the vocations were all out there doing their jobs.
And so looking at your data, I mean, how healthy is the commercial truck market? Are we concerned? Are we not? Where are we at with this?
So the biggest blow for the commercial vehicle industry over the last couple of years was the lack of inventory.
Okay.
The demand kept building. Over 3 million vehicles the demand hasn't been being met. But the great news is that over the last few months, maybe 6 months, we've started seeing a return of inventory now. And, the dealer's first reaction was, well, this is vehicles that I've already sold and I've already got promised, right?
Sure.
But now we're starting to see a little bit more that will start being open and available. One of the things that we did 2 years ago is we launched what we call Easy Order, because we wanted to get buyers, these businesses, to start thinking ahead. A lot of times, just the way it was, they would go to the dealer's website or go to the lot and just buy something. And they had to understand that, you really have to think ahead now. You have to get an order in, and you have to think about what it is that would be best for your current situation. Because there's a lot of new products and a lot of exciting new opportunities. And you mentioned EVs. There's all sorts of alt fuel and, new drivetrain solutions, right?
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, it's interesting because there's so many mirrors to the consumer side as commercial side, right? So consumer side, you go kick the tires, pick the truck you like, pick the color you want, you bought it, right? On the lot. Now we're doing ordering, and people are getting frustrated how long ordering is taking, whatever. And it seems like the same thing commercial side. They're having to, think ahead, place orders, and actually customize stuff before it comes in.
And it's even more complicated because you have the chassis you have to get ordered, but then you have to do the upfitting, and that involves at minimum one other company, and it could involve multiple companies, because let's say that you wanted, a service body with the drawers, but you also want a ladder rack and you also want a lift. And so sometimes you can get it all in one place, and sometimes you actually have to have it moved around to get the work done.
Yeah. And talk about your numbers. So new average on-lot inventory per dealer, you were up 24.8% quarter over quarter and up 70.5% year over year.
Yes.
70.5. That's a number that's just blowing people away, because that's such a huge change. So it's really supply.
But it's because there were none.
All right.
That's 1 times 75%. Yeah. So I'm joking, but we have you. I don't know if you've been to Comvoy, COMVOY.com. So we launched this 3.5 years ago. It's a national marketplace. You'd really like it. Go take a look.
Okay.
Because it's all commercial vehicles, and so 3 years ago we had 150,000 vehicles on it, and then in 21 we had 40,000. So that's the difference, right?
Do you feel like automakers are prioritizing fleet over commercial or consumer, or vice versa?
I think that commercial has been kind of this stable, easy to manage space up until recently. It's just been there. And let's agree that consumers have to be kind of encouraged and cajoled and marketed to, right?
Right.
And so a lot of times what happened at an OEM is they'd go, oh, well, the commercial stuff will just kind of take care of itself because we know there's a demand. And then on the retail side, they would be spending lots of money and doing, $2,000 whatever back and all of that kind of stuff. But what's happened over the last year and a half, and you saw Ford launched Ford Pro. And that is their commitment and their focus on commercial. And what's happening, and then GM last month, I think it was, launched GM Envolve, which is their similar approach, which is for businesses, we need to give them a one-stop shop where not only are they buying the vehicle, but they're getting telematics and fleet management and charging and gas cards and maintenance and warranties. And so that's kind of this new focus by OEMs on how do we really make this what it should have been, which is B2B. B2B is, B2B compared to B2C, business to business, which is all about a long-term relationship and helping the business do the things that is not part of their business, but they have to have, right? Mm-hmm. So to answer you, to go back to your question, I think that the OEMs are really starting to focus on it now, and which is starting to color how they build vehicles.
Yeah, I was just at Ford Super Duty launch. My months are running together. Maybe 2 months ago, and we did the whole Ford Pro walkthrough telematics. It was a huge part of their business. I mean, they had a huge focus on that. And it was interesting stuff. And from my standpoint, I was like, okay, this is just normal business case. Like this, I've been doing this for years.
I mean,
but yeah, it seems like this is all brand new.
It's all brand new.
Okay.
Having said that, I've been publishing magazine on this concept for now since 2007.
Right. So, I mean, from all your experience doing the work truck stuff and all the commercial truck stuff, you've seen the same thing that I've seen. You've seen Ford owns all this kind of stuff. From your perspective, I mean, how big is Ford in the commercial space? And do 50%. They own the market?
50%.
50% of the market is so. Ford. Really? And I remember Ford said a few things that they could have their own, like, was it Fortune 500 company based on just their fleet business? I think it was that big.
Well, and that's why they separated out Ford Pro, and it's actually being tracked separately now on stock, right? So they get it. I think, if you look at the whole ecosystem, so you understand class 1 through 8, right?
Yep.
So a lot of people just narrowly say, well, this space is class 2 through 5, or it's just, 3 through 7, or it's just, look at it holistically, class 1 through 8. If it's a business that needs a vehicle, it can be any kind of business. So we focused on trucks and upfits, but we do a lot of pickups. And now in the last year, we've added SUVs, and we're looking at other vehicles that are, because of the change in the dynamics of the market and more deliveries and all of these things that are happening around us, we're starting to add vehicle models and types that businesses want. And I'm expecting to see more upfits focused around how do you take an SUV and do something unique with it, right? That would help a particular type of business.
Right.
My favorite was about 5 years ago, when I'm in California, and one of our local upfitters had built what we call a secure transport van.
Okay.
It's a van that has a humidity control, a temperature control, and a lockbox. And it's for picking up cannabis from the field and delivering it to a dispensary, right? I mean, these are the things you look at what's happening around you and you say, that's what's so cool about commercial vehicles, is they're really practical,
Yeah, I mean, the practical side of me, I love commercial vehicles because it's simple. The radio doesn't need to be a 15-inch like iPad. I don't need Super Cruise driving on the highway. I just need something to get in, turn the key, and go. And use it.
Now you might want Wi-Fi in it, because then you can update your you can do some things if you want to work in the cab. There's things that you might want, but it's all by ROI, right? It's all by what do I get for having that kind of feature.
Right. And I do follow this. I actually at the Work Truck Show last year, I think in March. And I love walking around because, class 1, you have the pickup trucks and things, but then you have the big crane trucks and the electrical utility trucks, and you have dump trucks or the big snow plows with the salt spread in the back. And the little boy.
Well, next year we'll invite you to our party.
There you go.
You'll have to come by our booth. Yeah.
The little boy in me wants to drive the snowplow truck around so badly.
Oh yeah.
So
I like the great big vacuum truck.
Oh yeah, that thing. Yeah. Just good stuff. I don't, I love it if I had my audience. You guys need to watch this more because I want to do more of this stuff. So keep watching. This was Scrabble, that kind of stuff.
Hey, Tim, we have a coloring book. I'll send a work truck coloring book. I'll send it to you.
All right, there you go. Like, stress reliever. I'll read YouTube comments and color as I'm reading them.
Yeah.
So GM says they have a new claim, and that they threw this out. The vice president of General Motors, last name's Bell, first name I can't remember. Anyways, I was at an event for the EV work truck Silverado, and they made the claim saying that the fastest growing high volume OEM in total fleet sales, based on calendar year date, November 21, that kind of stuff. So my question for you is, how big of a player is GM in the commercial market?
Well, they're number 2.
Okay. So is it, when I look at the numbers, I see Ram there as well.
25%.
Right. So is it 50, 25, then maybe Ram's like say 10%, whatever in that range?
Yeah, it depends on how you slice and dice it again. It's like vans and like, where do you start? Class 1? Or do you start in class 2? Or do you start in it's a lot of it. And I was going to say that is true even about Ford, because if you go all the way up to class 8, so, there are class 8 work trucks, right? Yeah. And so it depends on where you're framing it when you're measuring market share.
Yeah, and I asked them all sorts of questions, and I get fuzzy answers back. Although I did do some donuts in a work truck with one of the Ford Pro marketing managers or PR people. It was awesome. Cool. So I want to ask another question about this. So time on lot, I didn't realize that used. I guess I was being foolish in that I buy a truck every year for my channel. And when I buy this truck, I get tax credits, and it's a huge thing, right? And the channel people love it, and I modify it and whatever I'm gonna do with those things. But I didn't realize there's such a strong used vehicle sale market in commercial.
There is.
It seems like to me, if you have a work truck and you drive it around and beat the crap out of it, maybe there's not big people want to buy that. But the numbers you're having are incredible in changes in year-over-year growth.
Well, think about it though, because when you are starting a small business, let's say that you're going to be a tree, you want to do tree work, or you want to be a plumber or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. And you've got to start off, and you can buy something that still has, maybe a couple, 3 years of life left in it, but you can get started. It's really kind of a growth, a starter and a growth opportunity. Also, during COVID, when there were so few vehicles, it was sometimes it was a strategy just to stay in business. There were folks that were going to buy a new vehicle and couldn't get one, and they bought one because they needed a vehicle, so they bought a used one. That was a kind of a change in strategy, for sure. But so we actually have a platform that we call VAST, Vehicle Acquisition Search Tool, and it's a private channel for dealers to acquire vehicles from auctions and fleets and stuff like that, because nobody else pays attention to work vehicles like work trucks and work vans. Sure. So we aggregate them all to give them an ability to kind of look and shop on that for their customers.
Interesting stuff. So I want to hop into the last thing kind of in this conversation was hybrid EV sales. And this is a very controversial topic in the consumer side with EVs. I see press releases all every day going back and forth and this kind of stuff. But what kind of appetite do you think there is? I want to separate this up. So for a hybrid itself, so like a plug-in hybrid or this basic hybrid, do you think there's much appetite in the fleet side of business?
So we just watched, the last couple of years of hype around electric vehicle adoption in the commercial space. So I've spent a lot of time and a lot of presentations and research around that. And there are two things that are critical for commercial use of electric vehicles. One is, what is the size of the company? Because to have a small company and go out and get a non-ICE vehicle creates a lot of extra work to have a new way of refueling, it's just so different, right? So right. If you've only got 10 vehicles and you're going to do it with one, that's 10% of your fleet. Whereas if you've got a really big fleet and you want to go try a couple of them, it's easier, right? To test that. So the size of the fleet, and the other is, of course, the use case. And use case includes the geography, because I'm sure you've heard in use cases that require 100% uptime in in really cold areas, it's very, very difficult to do that with electric vehicles. So, we've been tracking and slicing and dicing and looking at different use cases and looking at what's available. And now what I'm seeing, I mean, just today there was an announcement that Ford made that they're backing off from full 100% EV and looking at hybrids. So, yeah, I got to tell you, commercial vehicle use is very pragmatic.
Yeah.
Can't do it just because it's popular. You can't do it just because the government says you have to do it. If you can't run your business, if you can't get, if you can't be profitable, you've got to stop it and say that's not going to work.
All right. So last question for you. What are you forecasting for the future? Are you thinking that work truck sales are going to keep growing?
Yes.
Are we,
no, I mean,
no.
I will be totally honest with you.
Yeah, no, I think the executives, they give me this long, 40-word answer. You're like, yes, done. I'm like, great. We can do this interview in 20 seconds. But I mean, because there's a lot of, the economy is really weird right now. Depending who you talk to, it's either good or it's terrible, or everything's always up in the air, and prices have increased quite a bit as well. And new fleet vehicles have increased in price too. I don't think as steeply as consumers have seen in the high level luxury line, but because fleet sales are, the price per purchase is going up as well. And I'm just curious if businesses, if you're seeing any headwinds out there that cause you to look, cautious.
So I do pay attention to all the economic, technology, competitive, social, and regulatory influences. Those are the 5 things that are out of our control, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I watch them all, and I'm telling you that, in my humble opinion, this industry is in a good, solid space. We are often, people haven't paid a lot of attention to it, but we really are kind of the stable. You pointed it out. The 80% of the GDP is run. The companies that provide 80% of the GDP is run using commercial vehicles.
Yeah.
So we're the backbone of the economy. The economy gets wiggly maybe here and here, but it's moving forward. And if you look at jobs recently, and you look at interest growth, the interest rate slowdown, and all of these things all together, I say we're good to go, and that this is exactly the right place to be because it is stable. It's a constant demand. And, if you think about it, whether new house starts are up or down, either way, it causes the need for plumbers, for vocational folks, right? If the housing starts are down, then there's going to be a need for repairs. So it's a very solid, economically stable part.
Interesting. Well, hey, thanks for joining me today.
Oh, I enjoy it. I really love your channel.
Oh, thank you.
And I joined, and so I'm gonna pay attention now. And we should have a talk about pickup trucks in general at some point, also.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So yeah, like I said, we will have lots of conversations. I think you and I could probably talk for an obscene amount of time. So
cool.
All right, there you go. Lots of stuff to unpack. My first conversation with Kathyrn won't be my last. We have some different ideas cooking in the bin upstairs. So I'm just curious, guys' thoughts. What do you guys think? Was anything surprising to you? Anything stood out to you? I have some surprising numbers to myself. I mean, I knew Ford was big, but my goodness, 50%. That's a huge chunk of the fleet market, and I just didn't realize it was that big. So what do you guys think? Were you thinking that big? Were you thinking it was more like 25%? Were you thinking the numbers were that big? I'm guessing you might have been, or maybe not. I don't know. That's why you comment below. All right, check out more videos over here. Website down below as well. Pickuptrucktalk.com. As always, thanks for watching. I will see you down the road.